The Kings tricked me. They they tricked me, and honestly, it's on me. There should have been no reason for me to believe that this team had actually changed and was going to beat the horrible teams that are missing half of their roster. There should have been no reason. I thought that, winning against Memphis, okay, you win a tough game in overtime. I thought that was kind of a turning point into the Raptors game where they shot poorly, they turned the ball over, and still were able to just dominate, right? But no, then they come into this one and they shoot poorly again, 28, 29% from three, something like that, and pretty much exactly what they shot against the Raptors. But in this one, they somehow find a way to lose. And something that's baffling in all of these losses is the way the Kings will go down pretty big, but then come all the way back, only to then go down again, and then come all the way back again, and then lose it down the stretch. You would think that as the better team, sure, they go down early, they're, not shooting well, they don't have the energy, second night of a back-to-back, whatever. But then once they come back and tie the game or get the lead, then from that point on, you would think it should just be over. But they don't know how to put these games away. They don't know how to play in these types of games where they're missing their threes. The decision making throughout this game was just baffling. Especially later on, you could tell the Kings were kind of feeling it. They were feeling the pressure and they started forcing things and just not making the easy passes, not making the easy plays, and not just keeping things simple offensively. And that's what I don't understand is you're going up against this bad team. If you just keep things simple offensively, you're going to win. They could get inside whenever they wanted to. All they had to do was run a pick and roll and boom, the Wizards defense was done for. But the amount of times that then they would either not make the right pass out of that or someone would pass up an open shot. Once this team started shooting badly, they passed up so many open shots to then take bad shots. And it was just such a missed opportunity for this team. Some of the rotations were also just weird to me. Like, why is Keon Ellis only playing 21 minutes? The defense started struggling, and you just take him out. Keegan only played 29 minutes. Keegan, who is 7 for 11 from the field, and is one of your better defenders, only plays 29 minutes. And you have Harrison Barnes playing 28 minutes. Why? I didn't understand the lineups. Like, I understand why Mike Brown wanted to make changes early in the second half. When things started going poorly again, I understand switching things up, throwing a Kessler Edwards out there, throwing a Malik Monk out there early. I get that. But why is that at the expense of Keegan only playing 29 minutes and Keon only playing 21 minutes? I don't get that. Because then in the fourth quarter, you put Harrison Barnes back in the game, and that pretty much loses us the game because the Wizards just score on him like 3 straight times, and the game's over. I said it after the last game. Love Harrison Barnes around 20, 25 minutes a game. He got 28, and those last, the difference between 25 and 28, those 3 minutes, that's really what lost us the game in the fourth quarter. Plenty of other reasons we lost, but I just don't understand why he's playing at that point. We can go back to the very start though. Let's just go through this first quarter to fourth quarter. From the very jump, you could tell the Kings just lacked energy. Now, it wasn't horrible, but you could just tell that they weren't the way they were against the Raptors or at most other points in the season. It was nice to see Keegan Murray start knocking down some shots. He started 4 for 4, all from within the 3-point arc. You had Keon and Fox both getting a few steals early. I think they combined for 3 really early on. And so that was great because it was creating better opportunities for the Kings on the other end. And the Kings were just struggling offensively to get good shot attempts. Fox's shot attempts were awful. Like, he started 0 for 3 from 3, maybe 0 for 4 with some just dumb pull-up threes. And he ended the game with 31 shot attempts, 15 of them from behind the 3-point arc, and I just don't understand. He hit 5 of them, so it's not the worst percentage of all time, but why is he taking 15 threes? I don't get it. But he just couldn't hit anything. But taking those threes is definitely not helping. And the ball just, it was not moving the way it normally does. Guys were not getting downhill. And then on the other end, the Kings were struggling to contain Kuzma because we don't really have a good matchup. Tried Barnes early, didn't work. Went to Keegan, didn't work. And then the rebounding was horrible. And so that's like the energy effort thing. The Kings were just getting picked apart in the lane. Guys on the Wizards, anyone on the Wizards, getting into the paint whenever they wanted. And the Kings were always a step slow. So the Kings tried to go zone to counter that. And then what happens? They immediately allow an offensive rebound. So at this point, you're like, okay, you came out, not the greatest energy, missing from deep, not getting it to the paint. Harrison Barnes keeping us in it with some good drives to the rim, getting to the free throw line. You're hitting your free throws. Like at this point, it's not a good start, but you're still fine. Then the start of the second quarter happens. Nobody can hit a shot still. Fox still can't hit a shot. Duarte finally hits a 3. Kings were 0 for 11 up to that point. But then they allow the Wizards to go on a 10-0 run, and the Kings were down 19. Wizards just blowing past the Kings defenders, every single one, just blowing right past them. And it was only Monk to then hit a 3 to stop the bleeding. And Monk was very solid in this game. Like, he was good offensively. He was getting into the paint. He was hitting his mid-rangers. Couldn't hit the 3, but he was getting to the free throw line, knocking down his free throws, had 20 points. I wish he got more involved late in this game, but we'll get to that. The Kings threw Kessler Edwards out there to try to guard Kuzma, and it was a mixed bag, but he did help stop Kuzma a few times, a few more times than what was happening when he wasn't out there. I also think Sabonis wasn't really getting very many rebounds early on, and that affected the Kings' ability to push the other way, because so much of the Kings' offense is Sabonis getting the rebound, pushing the other way, and that creates so many cross matches and just quick offense, and it just gets the Kings into their offense right away, and that wasn't happening. And then defensively, there were just so many miscommunications. Like, there's one play where Fox and Keon just weren't on the same page, so they were late, or Keon was late to, switch, and then that results in a guy getting straight into the paint and getting to the free throw line. I feel like that happened a lot. And then the run that we were all waiting for happened. You had Fox finally hitting some shots. He didn't hit everyone. Like, there were still definitely some ones that you expect him to hit that he was missing, but he hit some tough threes. You had Harrison Barnes pushing it to the rim, getting to the free throw line. He went 6 for 8 from the free throw line, scored 12 points. So I thought those moments were important to keep the Kings in the game, and then the Kings finally were able to get stops. You had Fox drawing an offensive foul. You had Sabonis contesting shots at the rim. Kessler Edwards, Harrison Barnes all getting stops at the rim. Keon Ellis harassing Kyle Kuzma, and Kessler Edwards getting the steal, pushing it up the floor to Barnes for an easy score. And so the Kings went on a 21-2 run in 5 minutes and 43 seconds and ended the half on a 21-4 run, down 2. And so I'm not even mad at that half at all. You go down big. Like, obviously, I'd rather them not do that. But they are on the second night of a back-to-back. You're not hitting your shots. But then they were able to get themselves into the game, and you're only down 2 at half. And so now you just need to, get it together and finish it off in the second half. But this is what I'm talking about. So many times they've done this, where they get themselves back into the game. It happened against the Pistons, where you get yourself back into the game and you think, okay, from here, we should be able to pretty much cruise and build up a little bit of a lead and it'll be all fine. But no, that's never what happens with this team. They just always give that momentum right back. I'm not saying they're going to keep this insane momentum 21-2 all the way throughout the game, but it's the fact that they go 21-2 and then the Wizards just respond with their own massive run that the Kings just can't put a stop to at all. They just came out with the same low energy in the third quarter, and I thought the Kings should have called the timeout. Like, where did Mike Brown's early timeouts go? Because we needed one so badly. I was calling for one when the Kings went from down 2 to down 6, because you could just tell they didn't come out with the right energy. They turned the ball over right away. They were not locked in. It seemed like nobody wanted to shoot. And so you have Malik Monk and Kessler Edwards come in for Keegan and Keon. Kessler Edwards passed up an open shot, but then got another open shot and knocked it down. So at least someone knocked down a three, but the Kings went down 13 and then there was a timeout. I just thought that was way too late for the timeout. And I don't understand when you need energy why you're taking your two best defenders out. Like, why do you think you can't get a stop and you're taking your two best defenders out? How about put Kessler in for Harrison Barnes? How about put Malik? You can put Malik in as well if you want for Keon or Keegan. Like, that's fine. But why are you taking them both out? I don't really understand that at all. And the offense in that third quarter was just a disaster. Not making the simple play. The Kings had a 5-on-4 for a good 10 seconds, and everyone just stood around the perimeter, and nothing happened. And they only scored on that play because the ball, like, luckily bounced to Keegan, and he hit a mid-ranger as the shot clock expired. It seems like the Kings' response to these moments where the offense isn't working is to post Sabonis up. And that just doesn't work. That's not our offense, and that's not his game. Like, his game is not just go to the post and he'll score. That's not his game. It's more likely that he's going to turn it over. You're just setting him up for failure. We've seen this time after time. That's just not the play. Have him set a screen for someone. If the offense isn't working, if your handoffs aren't working, then just go to pick and roll and try to get someone downhill. They just don't know how to play when the offense isn't working. They don't have a second way of scoring to go to. And there just weren't many times in this game where they were able to string stops together other than the end of the second quarter. Malik Monk kind of saved us, though, at the end of the third quarter, 8-0 run to end that quarter. But it's just sad how against these teams, we're just always fighting from so far behind, and we can't stop these runs. But then the Kings came out in the fourth quarter, and it was great. You know, Duarte giving some great effort, Davion giving some great effort. You had Fox hitting a three, drawing a loose ball foul, getting in the post and hitting a post fade to cut it to 1. And then Kuzma hits a deep three. Fox answers with a deep three. And, you know, Fox was just kind of doing it on both ends. And so, again, we get the lead, right? I think we got the lead by 1 at one point. And again, that's the moment where they have to shut the Wizards down from that point. But then that's the moment where they just stopped getting any stops. Harrison Barnes back in the game, getting absolutely cooked. Obviously, they missed some open shots. Duarte went 1 for 7. Monk went 1 for 7. Neither Harrison Barnes or Keon Ellis hit a three. But it's one thing for it to be a drive and kick to a three that they then miss. Like Malik Monk missed an open three. You had Chris Duarte missing some good looks. It's another thing when you have De'Aaron Fox just standing in the corner, jab step, chuck up a three. Davion and Keegan kind of saving us. They hit a couple threes. But again, like Harrison Barnes being in the game, it killed us late in that fourth quarter. I just don't get it. Deni Avdija was abusing him. Finally, they put Chris Duarte back in, and then it wasn't until much later when they put Keon Ellis back in. But then the Kings finally get some stops, but then they can't get any scores because they try to go to Sabonis in the post instead of giving the ball to Malik Monk. Where was Malik Monk? Why is he only playing 29 minutes? If Keon's playing 21 and Keegan's playing 29, then where are those minutes going? Why, at least if those guys are not playing as many minutes, then shouldn't Malik's minutes go up? He didn't play over 30 minutes. It felt like Mike Brown was targeting the wrong guys with who he thought like was the reason that we weren't giving effort or weren't, competing on either end. Why are we going to Sabonis in the post when that's a turnover like a third of the time? Like 1 out of every 3 possessions we go to Sabonis in the post is going to be a turnover. Why not go to Malik Monk in the pick and roll? Or why not go to Fox in the pick and roll to try to get someone downhill? Because when they did, it usually led to good things. Because a lot of times, if it was Fox, Washington was blitzing, he made some nice passes out of that. Or if they would get into the paint, they got some good looks from three. And it's like, just because you're missing those shots from three, or you miss some shots inside, you shouldn't change how you're trying to get those shots if they are open shots. Like eventually, if they were to just miss a million open shots in a game and lose, then it is what it is because you miss shots. But that's just not going to happen most of the time. Kings went down 6. Monk missed an open 3. The Kings got the stop, and then there's a minute 30 left, and Fox just chucks a bad contested 3 in the corner. And that was pretty much it. We had a shot, and then Fox just chucking a 3. Like, he was good in the fourth at times, and he had moments, but 10 for 31. Why are you taking 15 threes? I just don't get it. The game was pretty much over at that point, but then, Keegan gets blown by Kuzma. It was pretty clear he was going to get blown by, but then no one was there to help. Like, how? You could see it coming from a mile away. Kuzma is getting a running start at Keegan. Keegan's not staying in front of him. Where's the help? And there was just none, and he gets an open layup. And then Keon passing up an open 3. Like, it was just so hard to watch the Kings make so many bad decisions. I feel like Fox, he tried to take it upon himself to win us this game, but he went about it in the wrong way. He went about it by just chucking up bad shots instead of trying to get downhill. And so it's like maybe he's tired and that's why he's taking a lot of 3-pointers, but that's just hurting the offense at that point. Like, either you fight through it and you get to the rim or get to your mid-range, or you just defer to someone else like Monk who's going to get it done. It's not like Fox wasn't competing defensively, so I don't know if that is it. If it was that he was tired, because he got 6 steals. He was making some nice plays on that end. Felt like even when he was in transition, he wouldn't turn on the jets and just go to the rim and try to get a score. He would just go at, a normal like jogging pace for him, which is fast for most other people, but I know he can go so much faster, and that's why he was getting stopped at the rim so much. I thought the bench was pretty solid. Like, Kessler came in and gave solid minutes. Alex Len was pretty solid in his minutes. Davion was pretty good. Malik was really good, I thought. Duarte, despite going 1 for 8, he was still giving effort and much better defensively than what most of the other Kings in the starting lineup were putting out there. It really just feels like the Kings don't have something that they can go to possession after possession when they are not knocking down threes to pick apart these bad teams. It's these types of teams where, I've said it before, you shouldn't have to shoot well or even average from 3 to beat them, and they didn't against the Raptors, and they did it through their defense turning into offense and also second chance points in that game. But they don't have something in the half court that they can then go to just get something inside pretty much every possession. But I feel like they should have the capability of doing that with the guys that they have on their roster. And I can tell you right now, going to Sabonis in the post is not that answer. And just post-ups in general are not that answer. You see the Kings try to do it with Sabonis, but also Barnes and sometimes other guys who have mismatches. But I would much rather just default to a pick and roll than default to let's go into the post. Because I truly believe if they just spammed pick and roll time after time after time, they would have had better results offensively than what they actually had in this game. And you know what hurts is that the Pelicans lost today. And that means the Kings could have come within 1 in the loss column of the Pelicans. But instead, here we are, another loss to a bad team. And right now, the Mavericks are crushing the Jazz. If Phoenix plays in Phoenix against Atlanta, they'll probably win that one later. And so now you're tied in the loss column with those teams, and it just makes things so much more difficult for this team for just no reason other than losing to the Wizards, to the Pistons, to the Hornets, to the Trailblazers, on and on and on. Another stat, Kings moved to 6-6 on the second nights of back-to-backs. And they're going to have to play 3 more of those. One against the Mavericks, which I believe the Mavs will also be on the second night of a back-to-back. One of them against the Celtics in Boston. That's tough. And then one of them against the Suns. But looking forward to the more immediate future, the Kings end off this little 3-game East Coast road trip playing the Orlando Magic, who just beat the New Orleans Pelicans. And now this, I think, is more of a game where they need to be able to knock down their 3-point shots. Because against the Wizards, you should probably be able to get inside and score a lot. And they weren't really able to do that when you're starting Richaun Holmes at center. Trust me, we've seen it. That doesn't lead to great defense and rim protection. But somehow the Kings not able to do that. Against the Magic, it's a lot tougher with the length that they have. I didn't talk about it earlier, but Kevin Huerter has a dislocated shoulder and a labral tear. Is that what it was? Pretty much sounds like he'll be out for the rest of the season, which obviously is a pretty big blow. And it is kind of ironic that the first game since that news comes out is a game where we shoot 28% from 3. Sasha Vezenkov was not available for this game. He was questionable for the second game in a row, so maybe he'll be back against Orlando. Obviously, it's going to be a tough game against Orlando. We beat them earlier this season in a double overtime game. Of course, Malik Monk going crazy. If it's an overtime game, of course he's going crazy. We're just going to need guys to, 1, hit shots, but 2, play with so much more energy defensively, because against a team like the Magic, when you have Paolo Banchero, everyone has to play together and be a lot quicker. It felt like everyone was kind of a step behind against the Wizards defensively at times, and so that can't happen against the Magic, because you're going to have to send bodies at Paolo, especially because we just don't have someone that can defend him one-on-one. And so the defense is going to have to be centered around stopping Paolo. Hopefully he doesn't have his jumper going like he did in the last game. But yeah, it's going to be tough. But looking a little further forward, we then play the Sixers at home. The Sixers have not been playing well without Joel Embiid. And then we have that 2 games in a row at home against the Mavericks, which those are 2 of the biggest games of the season. And then we play the Pelicans and Suns later in the season. But so those 4 games are the most important. Clippers have been sliding, so you could say that one's important as well, because it is possible that we catch them. But it's just so frustrating that the Kings have to just give up a game in the standings like this. When they just, they tricked me. Like I said at the start, they tricked me. I thought, it wasn't too long ago, a week, 2 ago, something like that, where I was like, we just have to accept that this is who they are. And then of course I totally go back on that after the Raptors game. And I'm like, no, they've turned the corner. Keon Ellis starting is the key. No, Keon Ellis doesn't mean we win every single game. He's now 7-1 as a starter. But look, the Kings are still in a good position in the standings. And it's not like they're doing anything different than they were the rest of the season. They've gotten themselves into this position in the standings somehow by losing to bad teams all season. So it's not like all of a sudden the sky is falling because this happened. We're used to it at this point. So just got to go out there and perform against the better teams. Anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. I will be back after that game against the Orlando Magic. Peace.